With us now is Alan Mendenhall, former business school dean, now senior advisor at the Heritage Foundation. Alan, good morning. Great to see you. I think the big money-related news of the night is that proposal for new retirement accounts for any workers without access to a 401k. We don't have any details yet, but how do you expect that to work?
Well, I expect it to work a lot like, for example, the Trump accounts. I think it's the federal version of a 401k, so it'll be based on some type of diversified style, index style investment. And again, details will be rolled out in a few weeks. But I want to make one sort of larger point about the State of the Union, if I may, and that's that the president is a master semiotician. And what I mean is he understands semiotics, and semiotics will motivate the economy in the same way that the cold mechanics of policy will. And so there were a lot of profound images and optics and signs and symbols at play in this speech. And what those revealed to me is that substance does not precede its representation, but the representation is the substance. What do I mean by this? I mean, if you look at the honorees that were acknowledged in this speech, they weren't just ornaments to the speech. They were the speech. They were the answer to the question the whole ritual addresses, which is, what's the state of our union? What is the state of our union? The state of our union is a rescue swimmer who dove into a flood on the 4th of July to rescue 165 lives. That's the state of our union. In that sense, the image doesn't illustrate the argument. It is the argument. And so when the Democrats refused to stand when Trump said, oh, stand up if you believe the government's first obligation is to protect citizens, or stand up for the mother of a murdered daughter, and the Democrats sat, what they thought they were doing was withdrawing an image from the president. But in fact, what they were doing was producing an image, and one that they cannot rehabilitate. What the message was that people took from that was that these people will not stand up for you, so you must stand up to them.
Interesting, Alan. So you at the top of your point here, you said that it's not only Trump's economic policies and policies themselves, but these symbols. How do you expect these to have a positive impact on the economy like you outlined?
Well, the stock market is motivated a lot by consumer sentiment. And as you mentioned, the 401ks, what this new federal version of the 401k plan will do is it will give more people money to invest. We've seen the S&P 500 reach 7,000 this year. We've seen the Dow reach 50,000. These are historic records, and people aren't talking about them enough. We've seen inflation plummet versus 9.1% under Biden in June 2022. And we had Trump talking about how it was 1.7% over the last 3 months of 2025. These are massive changes, and they are signs and symbols of something deeper going on in the economy. And we need to celebrate that. And when consumers recognize what's going on, they tend to spread. It's contagious. It's a great kind of contagion, the good kind of contagion.
So on that point, Alan, in the Democrats' rebuttal, they basically targeted Trump and attacked Trump for issues of affordability, said he was making your life more expensive. How exactly do you go about measuring what exactly is happening with prices and affordability in the economy right now?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the stock market already. The stock market's hitting record highs. The Democrats are actually fairly aligned with the president on some of his housing policies and limiting institutional investors' ability to purchase single-family homes. So, there's room for bipartisanship there, and I think that's a positive sign. The drug prices, the most favored nation deal that Trump struck with all these pharmaceutical companies. These are companies making a deal privately. This is not, a government policy at this point. And so there are a lot of things to be optimistic about. Again, I'm looking at inflation numbers, which continue to be positive. They're going in the right direction. I'm looking at stock markets, which are going in the right direction, very positive. Of course, we saw some blips on Monday as markets reacted to the tariff decision last week, but we've already seen recovery from that. It was a fairly quick bounce back. So there's a lot to be exuberant about.
You're going to get that in the stock market anyway, right? You get blips and ups and downs. We have a clip of President Trump talking about his efforts to reduce drug prices. Maybe we can play this clip.
Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs, anywhere.
So is this going to have a significant impact on American wallets, Alan?
Well, I hope so. I don't like to make predictions too much, but I think if people start going to trumprx.gov, and it is a direct to consumer platform that shows different pricing different discount rates, they're going to have a lot more knowledge at their disposal in order to make decisions that are tailored to their own personal interests. And I think these are positive developments that writ large will have an aggregate positive effect on the economy.
You said earlier, Alan, that some of these signals we're seeing, whether it's in inflation, whether we're seeing in the stock market, that it's indicating that below the surface there are fundamental changes, fundamental positive changes happening in the American economy. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned inflation moving in a positive direction, but we also have the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which makes these 2017 tax cuts permanent. We've got no tax on tips. We've got all these things that are helping workers throughout America. When the Dow hit 50,000, that was a sign not just that Wall Street was doing well, but that Main Street was doing well, insofar as the Dow has sort of the 30 core American industries represented in it. And so this isn't sort of the NASDAQ kind of techie, trendy type portfolios, but the real core of American economy. This is a sign that Main Street and Wall Street are both in concert improving together.
And you put it down to go back to your original point, not just policy, but also you could see the picture that the president is painting of America and what he wants to achieve over the next 3 years.
I totally agree. Look, it's time for people to fall in love with America again. It's okay to love your country. We have a wonderful country, a great country, amazing traditions, an amazing history, and we've accomplished great things, and we continue to accomplish great things. And look, every golden era throughout history has had its naysayers and critics. Even while it was happening, I think it's time to recognize that we're in a golden era and a golden age, and we're going to enjoy the flourishing that is actually happening as soon as we start recognizing the benefits and greatness that is right before us every day.
Interesting. Alan, got 30 seconds. What are you watching most closely over the next year when it comes to the economy?
Yeah, well, I'm going to continue watching inflation. More immediately, I'm really curious to see what happens with these tariff rebates and refunds. I know no one seems to really know exactly how that's going to work out. FedEx filed a lawsuit on Monday that may be sort of the guinea pig case, where we find out what's going to happen with the U.S. Court of International Trade and how it might react to this. And we'll learn what these rebates, refunds might be. And maybe companies will think it's way too costly to go about the litigation process when Trump has just shifted the tariff basis under other sections of different previous trade acts.
Still a lot to play on the tariff front. That's Alan Mendenhall, Senior Advisor to the Heritage Foundation. Alan, thank you.
Thank you.